All right. What is
What's
everybody?
up?
What is everybody? What is up, everybody?
What is up, everybody?
Let's
How we
we'll have
doing,
to
folks?
edit that intro for the
Yeah,
recording so people know. People think we know what the hell we're talking about.
yeah, all the professional editing that goes into the replays of these.
Yeah, the behind the scenes is incredible. The script that we have for these takes hours and hours to
Yeah.
come up with it to make it seem natural, like we're really talking.
Now, I will say, if you guys haven't seen it, we did put out. I've been talking about it for way too long now. We did put out our most recent
Yeah,
episode of the podcast, and we did do a full blown in person interview. So we do have that up on YouTube. Maybe we could put that. You could put that link in the chat, Rhino, to the YouTube video. But it's also on Apple Podcast, all that stuff. But it was kind of cool to do it in person. Well, that'll be. We're not going to do that every time, and obviously everybody's not in person when they come and do the podcast. But turned out really good. I think we had our buddy Bill come in and shoot the video, and really turned out well. He does all of the podcast production for the Model Health Show, which is one of the top health and nutrition fitness podcasts in the world, really. So he was nice enough to come in and help us out with that. So we're going to try to create some cool little short snippets out of that to get on social media. But this is the one that I've been talking about with Casey Cox, who is the fitness pro. I'm sorry, golf pro.
you're the fitness pro.
I'm the fitness pro. He's the golf instructor, biomechanist that is the director of instruction at Old Worston Country Club, which is one of the nicest clubs here in town. And he also, in the wintertime, now that the weather's kind of starting to break, he's back at the club. But when the weather is not conducive, he's in here giving lessons out of the pit. So I really think I re-listened to the episode this morning on my walk. And there's just so much stuff in there. He's so intelligent, so articulate with the way that he formulates the thoughts around the ways that he teaches, and I've seen him do exactly what he talks about in his lessons. So very, very smart guy. We'll definitely get him on in several ways, shapes, and forms in the different media that we put out in the future, for sure, because I think you guys will really love it. Has anybody, by chance, listened to the episode already? I know we just put it out last night. So
A little bit. I haven't made it all the way through though.
smart dude, huh?
That guy gets it. You know what? It's pretty good. I was like pleasantly surprised. I knew it was gonna be cool, like with like Joe Roganish, but yeah, like changing the camera angles or the cameras and stuff it's well done.
Yeah.
I know it's a
Little
we need to be in that
pricey,
business.
a little
I was
pricier
gonna
than
say.
we can do every time, but one of these days, it'll all make sense. But even for what I wanted to try to do with it was first of all just try it out, see what it looked like, see what it ended up feeling like. What the studio. I mean, obviously we have this great studio here that no one gets to see really. So we want to utilize that as much as possible. But even on the remote interviews that we do, which we've got another one that's in edits right now. But having it have a little bit more appeal visually than just plopping up, like a Zoom call kind of a thing. So having somebody like Bill that can even just cut and splice a little bit and make it a little bit more entertaining to watch, because it's always great to get more views on YouTube and be able to have some of that visual to put on Instagram and things like that to help build awareness and really, build awareness around the guests that we have, not just building awareness for us, but I mean, now we'll be able to cut up some clips from that and put that on. And I've already got a couple of people that I want to introduce Casey to get him on other podcasts. Marina,
Right.
I think you'll really like the conversations. I'm already going to reach out to Carl and just try to introduce him and see if we can get him on the Mind Factor podcast, because we talk a lot about internal versus external and when it's appropriate to bring one or the other in. And I think a conversation between those two guys would be fascinating. So
great. Yes, I shall encourage him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, but yeah, I think you guys will all enjoy that. So what else is happening?
Well, the one thing we didn't get to last week was one Randy Souza and
Oh, yeah.
his Mr. Universe pictures. Do you still have? I still have the email that you sent me.
Yeah, pop it up if you. I don't have it handy right now.
Let me.
Did you get it?
I
Oh,
did get
yeah.
it, Randy. Yeah, so, yeah. I forwarded it over to Ryan. So
Oh,
so if you're cool, we'll pop it up on the screen here in a second.
yeah. You know, it's funny is we're doing a little spring cleaning here, and because we were talking about a percentage of body fat, and when I was going from the Hayward Fire Department to the Los Angeles Fire Department, when I went in for my medical, they went off of the chart. I weighed 227, 230, and they said that I was like 30% body fat. Well, Dr. Don Chu, he had me tested. He had me dipped at Stanford at 10, and then off of this thing I found yesterday, had me at 7.5%, I think, at 227. So those
Jeez.
charts are goofy.
Wow.
That's
227 at 7%. That's a beast, Randy. A shredded beast, mind you.
Well, that's when I was powerlifting. I was kind of in my prime.
Wow.
I'd say.
That's
So, Bodine, I sent that. Can you have access to your email there?
Yeah. Yeah, let me pull it up real quick.
Yeah, it I can't even like give you guys the preview of it. It's so excellent.
All right. Let me get back to
I
Zoom and share my screen.
tried to send it to Ryan, but I sent it to you, Jeff. So that's how you got it? Is it?
Yeah, I got it. And then so here we go.
Okay. I don't know what happened, Ryan, when I sent it to you.
Oh my goodness.
Can you guys see that there?
Yeah, I'm the one on the ground.
Okay, so we had it right.
Let's see. Can I-
Do you know what,
So,
Bodine? Now that I'm
how-
looking at this closer, it
How
kinda
old are
looks
you,
like.
Jeff?
Go ahead.
What's that, Randy?
How old are you?
44.
Oh, okay. Well, you were 4 years old when I did that.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. I've always been fascinated with the what do they call it, Randy? The vacuum when you suck
Yeah.
in like that.
Yes.
I don't think people realize how hard that is. I mean, you had to really train to learn how to do that, right?
Yes. And actually Arnold says that you should do it like every day. It's something you should practice to do it every day, which I
Really?
don't. But Frank Zane had a very good vacuum. He was Mr. Olympia as well. I don't know if you know of him.
I know the name, but
Yeah, he was one of the top bodybuilders from that era. But anyhow, yeah, the vacuum was pretty tough.
that's
The vacuum
awesome.
is when you like suck that, like
Yeah,
suck in
when you
your
suck it all the way
diaphragm.
in. It's almost like you're sucking your belly button all the way to your spine.
That's what you try to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh man,
A long time ago, guys.
Pretty awesome. So who was that in the photo with you?
That was my partner, Aggie. She went on to compete in bodybuilding, and I don't know how far she ever got, but shortly after that, I got in a bad accident, and it took me out of bodybuilding, and that's when I got into powerlifting.
Hmm.
And so anyhow, I just like long drive. After I got out of it, I don't follow it anymore. So I didn't follow the bodybuilding world either.
Gotcha. Awesome. Very impressive though. Thanks for sharing that. That was awesome.
That was cool. Yeah, Bodine, when you blew that up, send that to Jessica. There's a gal that works at the gym who is pretty buff. Not quite as buff as that gal, but even their faces kind of look the same.
Oh yeah. Now that you say that, I will. I'll have
Actually,
to,
I guess at her prime, when Jessica was really competing, she was pretty close to that buff.
Yeah, I mean, she was she did some fitness modeling and did some competitions. She won a couple competitions. Won her first ever competition, actually. I think first two. So yeah, I will send that to her because it did kind of look like her now that you say that.
Right. I didn't notice that. I was so focused on Randy's physique, I didn't even notice the girl there.
I doubt that.
You know me too well.
Yep. All right. So how about our buddy? Well, not really our buddy, but how about Ricky Fowler taking down the beast of John Rahm yesterday? I didn't see
Yeah.
what else happened in the match play. I just saw some highlights of that, and it's like, whoa, it's good to see Ricky Fowler back in action.
Yeah, he's got some gas left in the tank.
Hmm.
That's pretty great.
And that
Um,
shirt he had on was phenomenal. The
I think-
flowered Hawaiian polo, whatever it was.
you know
Like
what?
Rick-
No matter what he wears, he looks cool doing it.
I know, right? He's all right,
Yeah,
except for the mustache, the dirty
see,
mustache.
I
Just-
think he makes that work too.
he's about the only guy that does make it work. That and a mullet, and it's like, man, how does he pull it off? So good.
Right. Smoke show wife. He's can play well. Okay, here's how we can do it. He's a professional golfer. Case
Yeah.
closed.
Did you know that I believe they said that he is in more advertisements than like the combination of any other golfer as far as like commercials, sponsorships. The guy's just,
Really?
he's a walking billboard.
That's
And-
pretty. Well, you know, more people know who he is than I bet combined. The average person knows who Ricky Fowler is. Has no idea who John Rahm is. Scotty Scheffler.
Scotty Scheffler.
All the, like Rory. Okay, they probably know that, but yeah, they don't know many of the top five right now.
Yeah. So let me get your take on this. I was listening to the Golf Subpar podcast. They just had a good one recently with Johnson Wagner, who is he's like the Ron Burgundy of golf.
Great
He's
name.
the big old mustache, and now he's on the telecast and everything. But he's won 3 times on tour. But before they were talking to him, they were just discussing, like, you know, Scotty Scheffler destroyed everyone at the Players, right?
Mhm.
And it's still almost like people kind of feel like it's just ho hum. Like if it would have been John Rahm or even Rory, they would have been like, oh my gosh, he's at the, you know, when he's on, nobody can beat him. But Scotty Scheffler, it seems like he doesn't get the just due that I think he's worthy of. You know, like the guy is so freaking good. And right now, like it reminds me of when Dustin Johnson was on. It was like, you're
Right.
not touching him. If Scotty Scheffler is dialed in, it seems like he is just untouchable right now. But I don't feel like the telecasts or the media is giving him his fair shake yet.
You know, it's kind of he's an interesting character because he's for the guy ranked number 1, you'd think you'd know him a little bit better, but
He's so low key.
Yeah, he's kind of like reminds me of like a Patrick Cantlay, where he's just kind of very vanilla. Not that excitable, just kind of business as usual. So I don't know if he's hard to sell. You know, they would love Ricky Fowler to be ranked number 1. That's
Yeah.
the greatest thing for golf ever. Instead of this guy just going about his business. And I mean, you saw Scotty Scheffler after he won. Did his demeanor change at all?
Had a little smile on his face, just kind of a, you know, whereas Patrick Cantlay, I think he has kind of a smelly fart face all the time. You know,
He
He's
does
kinda-
have the smell of the fart face.
yeah. So Scheffler, I think, is a little bit more hometown boyish, you know. But yeah, you're right. Like, there's not any glitz or glamour around him, which I think is cool, actually.
Yeah.
He just seems like he's a very normal dude. But you know, it just seems like, man, the guy has done some pretty crazy things. I mean,
Pretty quickly early in his career.
yeah. So let's and if anybody else wants to play this game, what are you guys thinking Masters wise? Obviously, Scheffler's flying pretty high right now. I think Jordan Spieth is kind of he's getting into his groove too, and nobody knows that place like Spieth other than a Tiger Woods. So I'm thinking those are kind of 2 hot tickets right now.
I love Rory. You know what? Do we know who the field is? Do you know who plays well there every freaking year? My dark horse is Corey
Dustin
Connors.
Johnson.
Corey Connors is so good at Augusta. He's always a good value pick for
Is he really?
DraftKings. Yeah, just a really good ball striker. For whatever reason, his game sets up well there.
Yeah, he's an incredible
Um,
ball striker. Yeah. And anybody else got some outside of those two guys? Anybody else have some picks for Masters?
I just have Rory as my pick.
I would love to see Rory win it. I would love to see him get that green jacket.
Yeah, it would be
you think he's
nice.
got it?
Yeah.
Is that a heart? Is that your heart voting, or is that you saying I'd put some money down on this kid?
I think it's my heart actually, but he had gone back there. He missed the cut last week, didn't he? So he went.
Mhm.
He went straight to Augusta and practiced for a couple of days there. So that was good. And he has I think he's calmed down now from all this, PGA representing everything about PGA.
Right,
He's got his old putter, his old Scotty Cameron is back in the bag. So if he can just sort out and be more sort of Brad Faxon advice putting style, he'll be fine. And he had shortened his driver, so was it 1 inch? So he should actually control it a little bit better, hopefully. And then he's got a new wedge in the bag, which I'm a bit iffy about. But apart from that, I think he seems to be calmer. But the trouble is, everybody's talking about him having a go at the Masters. So the pressure is tremendous, obviously. But I think Scheffler and Spieth, obviously, they are the sort of tough ones. But I think Rory might stand a chance. I think I need to give him a call to calm his mind down a little bit and just sort of have a bit of breathing. He's working with Bob Rotella, he has, but I could give a bit of more sort of advice maybe.
Yeah,
I think it'd be, like everybody's talking about how much pressure he has on him right now with all the stuff going on. In past years, it's almost like he's going into the tournament. We're like, oh, this is Rory's year. This is Rory's year. Whereas this year, everybody's like, he's got so much on his shoulders. Who knows? Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe he'll come in and, exceed our expectations as opposed to, the past couple of years where he hasn't even lived up to them. That would be such a storybook ending of the last couple of years. I saw Brandon said he'd love to see a live guy win. Yeah, you know what? I don't think I ever want to see Brooks Koepka with a green jacket on.
Yeah, he does well in majors, right? And they're they're lengthening out the golf course, and he's been in the hunt a couple times.
What's he looked like? What's he looked like on the live events the last several few? I haven't paid attention.
I mean, I think he might have like one win besides majors. So I mean, I don't know if he really cares all that much. I mean, he just seems like he's, he gets up there and he rips a fade, right? And if he can do that on all of his shots, like he's kind of unflappable. Whereas like you get some of these other guys that get a little emotional, and then it kind of doesn't work out in the majors. So it'll be interesting. I mean, you can't rule Tiger out. I mean, he knows the golf course well, and the short game is so solid that, if he stays healthy, he's a good pick. Spieth always plays well there. I mean, it's pretty tough to pick somebody outside the top 10 in the world right now, though. Right. Yeah. You got those top three, Rahm, Rory, Scotty. Those are kind of the three horses, I would say.
Yeah, looking at your note here, just the live guys, Cam Smith, DJ, Patrick Reed, those three guys, kind of all have. I'm wiping Koepka off that list. Those three guys, they've got, they're gonna have a little chip on their shoulder, I'm sure. And who plays better with a chip on their shoulder than Patrick Reed?
Oh my gosh!
Look out for that dude.
Just imagine if it's him and Rory in the final group on Sunday.
Yeah,
there won't be a single person in the world cheering for Patrick Reed, and I can see Patrick Reed somehow finding a way to win. And
or Patrick Reed and Tiger. I mean,
oh my gosh, just the diabolical. If any of those live guys, like the storyline is like, it's going to be must watch TV, right? Because everyone on the PGA Tour is going to be, pulling against them. who knows, right? And there's some pretty good live players there, with those,
Oh,
four
yeah.
guys. Phil Mickelson, he's
Yeah, I think Phil's kind of he's on the outskirts, but
Yeah.
I mean, look at if you look up Dustin Johnson's finishes at Augusta, he's like sneaky top fives. And then Cam Smith obviously has, been itching at it the last couple of years as well. I mean, this could be very, very interesting in the live and PGA world. So this will be fun to watch.
It's
Quite an
almost
Easter
like-
Sunday.
Yeah,
Patrick
it's almost
Reed. Patrick Reed has got a green jacket from before, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he
that's
does.
why those guys are able to play,
He knows
right?
the course. Yeah, he plays
Yeah.
there well.
So Phil won a major championship, 2 years ago? He won the
but
PGA.
I don't know if he's
PGA,
broken
yeah.
80 since.
I know, but yeah, I mean, it just takes. Well, it was the same thing going to the PGA Championship the year he won. He just was hitting his driver straight and long, like he bombs it, right? And
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
and Augusta sets up for lefties, right? Bubba Watson, Phil Mickelson, guys who can cut some corners. Being a lefty, it just you never know. So I hope for something like that. If we get a star-studded, Sunday where it's PGA Tour versus Live, and who knows, Jay Monahan and Greg Norman are probably laughing because their ratings have gone through the roof, right? Because of the whole Live PGA Tour drama, right?
Yeah.
There's, who knows, right? What's actually going on behind the scenes, right? And all the purses have went, crazy high since then, and like, oh, we hate each other, but nothing better than a little rivalry to drive everything,
Oh, here come the conspiracy theories.
I know,
There it
right?
is.
Conspiracy theories. Who would ever think of that?
Right? No, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. I can't wait. I was just, I actually, speaking of Bubba Watson, I was just, I pulled up the video, or had my son pull up the video, now that Sam's really kind of getting into the golf stuff. He's been practicing with the team and everything. And I'm so excited to watch the Masters with him this year, because I know that he's going to be into it and watching it way more intently. And I was like, you need to pull up Bubba Watson's approach shot from the Masters that year that he hit it from out of the trees and bent it around. And then after watching it, then you have to go and see the aerial view of what the shot tracer was. I mean, it's almost like a horseshoe. It's so ridiculous the way that he bends it like 90 degrees, but then it had so much spin that when it hit the green, it then spins even further off to the right. It's just nuts. He's like, oh my God, how does anyone ever even do that? Like, well, rumor has it Bubba Watson just grew up hitting balls, trying to bend it around the barn on the farm, bend it around the right side, bend it around the left side. I mean, it's so much fun to watch.
Paid off for that guy.
Right.
Is he going to be in it? I actually pulled up the.
Bubba's going to be there.
He'll be there. I think. Is he healthy now, Brandon?
I don't know. Prior champion, so he'll be in there.
Yeah, I don't know if he was healthy.
Yeah, because I know he wasn't playing the live stuff because was it a wrist injury or I'm not sure.
I don't know. We're all hoping for this, the studs to be in contention, the live versus PGA Tour, and it's going to be like the number 78 player ranked in the world that nobody's ever heard of, that goes in there.
It's going to be Taylor Moore and
Taylor Moore. He's going to have a 6-shot lead going into the back nine, and everyone's going to be like, this stinks, Yeah,
no, I think, the elevated events have already proven pretty exciting. I think that we're going to see some fireworks. That's my money's on that.
Yeah.
I think.
I wouldn't rule out I kind of like Will Zalatoris and Cam Young this year. So both of those guys, they bomb it. They've been around. They've been the last 2 years. There's a lot to be said for the hungry wolf, right? Staring up that no one's really, really talking about. And I would say those two guys are kind of I wouldn't even call them dark horses, but they both hit it a mile. Zalatoris' putting is not fun to watch, but he has really good speed control. It's just when he gets close to the hole, it's like, oh my gosh, and he's got the goofy arm lock, claw grip.
Zigzag backstroke.
Yeah, and you're like, how is it possible that you know, are so smooth on everything else, and then you get that putter in your hand, and it's like, whoa. So
I think Zalatoris is still struggling with his back a little bit. I mean, I was watching just a few hours ago, and they were talking about his back still. I don't know how long he's been back from his injuries. He's been suffering from back pain, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's had it for a couple of years. And I know last year he dropped out of the Tour Championship at the end, right after he won. And there was even a big thing about him going out and working with the TPI guys and them kind of finding a couple things in his swing. I think it had to do with just kind of the way he shifted his pressure and where he was rotating from. And, you know, he found like one little thing in his swing that definitely improved the way that his back felt when he was playing. But I haven't heard anything since then. His trainer is Damon Goddard, who we've had on the show a couple of times. Good buddy of the show.
Good dude.
Great guy, really great guy. But so I mean, I know that, you know, it's one of those things, like these guys, they have such great teams behind them, but man, they play so much, they swing so hard, they've got so much speed, you know, going through the ball. And it's just like, you know, just trying to keep these guys healthy is the main thing, because they're always, you know, pushing the thrusters 120%, 120 miles an hour in their swings and stuff like that. So
yeah, Will Zalatoris is like maybe 140 pounds, and
yeah,
he can swing at 120 plus miles an hour. He has it in the tank, and you're like, holy Christmas! Like, I mean, looks like he's going to blow away in the wind, you know, and all of a sudden he hits it, you know, 320, and you're like, that, like, the physics behind that, right? For him to generate that much speed on that frame, you know, is very impressive.
yeah.
Yeah,
which
does not,
is
does
dangerous.
not look
I mean,
right.
not dangerous. You know, we've said that for a while, that, you know, like even a guy like a Justin Thomas, who again is not a big, thick guy, you know, like
Buck 50 maybe.
the way that they violently swing the club is, you know, it can just be long term. You wonder how long their bodies can handle that. Now, if you watch JT, now he still rips at it with the driver, but I've kind of noticed over the last year and a half or so, the tempo on his swing with his irons is so good. Like, you just watch how smooth he's swinging now with those. It doesn't look so swinging out of your shoes-ish anymore, but, you know, still with the driver, those guys are just ripping. And then when I saw Zalatoris at Southern Hills, just on the telecast, but you know, JT was hitting I think it was on 18. JT was hitting driver, and Zalatoris was pulling on a 3-wood and hitting it just as far as JT was. I was like, whoa, I didn't realize that kid could hit it that far. It's nuts.
Yeah, I didn't realize that either. Good for Happy Gilmore's caddy.
Yeah, right.
He does well.
Have you
Great.
had any news about the new ball? They were talking about it on the telecast just a few hours ago for the pros. Is there any more news about sort of a ball that wouldn't go so far?
I just read like Rory's comments yesterday about it. And he shockingly was kind of
He's
for
it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which seemed odd
Yeah.
from him, but I get where he's coming from, because it's one or the other is getting obsolete. Either the course has got to get longer or the ball's got to get shorter. But what he did say that I thought was great was it's not impeding on the recreational player. So it's only for those guys. But the weird part is they're like leaving it up to the event to choose which ball, which is, I think, silly.
Yeah, the term is bifurcation. So like the
Right.
USGA and RNA have always kind of struggled with this, right? A separate rules for the pros, right? Do we want to make, you know, the rules of golf, you know, separate for amateurs and pros? I think the hardest part is what you're going to find is in the college ranks, right?
Mhm.
So you're going to have guys now that are like, do I go play college golf, or do I go play on the Corn Ferry Tour or the Latino America and forego college? Because if I play college golf, I'm going to have to play a separate golf ball, right? And even, you know, you got guys that are, high end amateurs, playing in the USGA mid-am and stuff like that. And you're like, okay, is the USGA going to make me use a different golf ball when I go play in this event? Where's the line? It creates a lot of challenge. And, guys like your studs, Tiger's been for it. But Tiger's he's a shot shaper, right? He's not a bomber anymore. So he kind of looks at it like, well, that plays into Tiger's skill set, right? If he plays a reduced flight golf ball, Tiger knows that he's a better mid-iron player than anyone ever, and he's going to be able to, shape shots and do different things. Whereas if you get a, long drive guy that, it's kind of coming out there.
Right.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. Justin Thomas didn't hide it, right? And he's like, this is dumb.
Yeah.
Most guys kind of initially said this is dumb. I thought that it was dumb.
Yeah, I just think that it's almost like it's not thought out all the way through because of what you were saying there, Brandon. Like, okay, so especially if it's the USGA and the RNA, so those are the tournaments that have open qualifiers where they're going to have amateurs and others, trying to get into these things. And it's like, well, is anybody going to be practicing with two different golf balls to know their yardages for, it's one thing if it was just for the pros only, and every pro tournament had it. But then again, yeah, you're playing a different piece of equipment, kind of like a wooden bat versus aluminum bat kind of a thing.
Right.
But, there's such a trickle down effect of, where does somebody draw the line to play that reduced flight ball? I don't know. It seems like there's got to be a different solution. I was talking to Jim Holtgreave yesterday, who was a Walker Cup captain for 2011, 2013, and he says to me, "So I guess you're against this whole ball rollback thing." And I'm like, well, I don't know that I've totally made up my mind, but it sounds like you're all for it. He's like, and he was, but then I started asking him some questions. It seemed like he didn't have any real answers around that too. I said, so now you expect like these high school kids to go, or college kids, if they're going to go try to play the USAM, if it's a USGA rule, US Amateur or the US Open, you expect these high school players to now have to go practice with two golf balls when, they don't have a caddy, they don't have all the equipment, they don't have a team, they don't have somebody dialing in their TrackMan numbers. They have to try to figure this out. And he's like, well, that's a good point. So I don't know. I just feel like it's tough because some of these classic courses, I think about St. Louis Country Club here in St. Louis, because of the distance, they don't have the land, so they could never host anything
Right.
big. So you've got some of these classic courses that, are maybe being outgrown a little bit, but, is that where the setup of the course comes into play a lot more, where, like the tournament they played this last weekend, was at the Snake Pit. It was at Innisbrook. I think they said it was playing 7,300 yards, which is long for most of us, but like, I'm sure Brandon's played tournaments that are longer than that. PGA Tour tournaments can, be up to 7,800 or even longer. So it wasn't the longest of tournaments, and it was set up very tough, and the winning score was 10 under. So I just don't want to see the 30 under par for a tournament.
Right.
But is it? I don't know. I haven't totally made up my mind, or obviously don't have a solution.
No, it's a tough one. And in the big scheme of things, it affects such a small percentage of golfers. It's not going to affect me or you or the normal golfer. So it's
Right.
not a huge deal. But yeah, it is. It's a very weird proposal, I think, because if you're one of those bubble people, you are having to use two separate pieces of equipment. And then even go down to like the range. Like, okay, where do I go hit this ball in the range? The ranges, is this like a special bay for these balls? And it's just, like 10 steps down the line. How does that work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nobody asked me. I'm not in charge.
Nope.
It's going to be really interesting, right? If guys are going to try and adopt it early, right? If there's going to be a big difference. Just like, the top, 0.001% of golfers in the world, right?
Right.
They're going to have to adopt to this. And then the manufacturers, Titleist, TaylorMade, they're going to scramble, right? Because that drives the needle for them to say that, Tiger plays a TaylorMade golf ball instead of a Bridgestone now. People are going to buy that golf ball, it'll be really, really interesting.
And it'll cost, right. It'll cost Titleist and, the equipment manufacturers millions of dollars to do this too. Not just the manufacturing, but the R&D, like in a vacuum, it's so simple. Oh, just take this tiny layer off and it just won't go as far. But then that creates other, different characteristics that the ball has. So I don't know the answer.
Yeah. And, I think they're saying they're going to try to dial it back, 5% or whatever. Like, honestly, in how many years is that 5% going to bring us right back to where we were? Because guys are, again, getting stronger, swinging faster, then they got to start limiting the equipment. Then, because it's just, the whole thing is such a big machine that is just continuing. I still don't understand how these companies, their marketing is so incredible, because I can't imagine that they can keep making improvements that are giving that much more distance or that much more efficiency, simply because there's got to be rules and regulations on what they can do, right? Otherwise, guys would be hitting it 400 yards, 450. So they keep getting a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So in 5 years, are we going to be at the same point where they're like, okay, now we got to dial that ball back 5%? And then I don't know.
Right. Is this just a Band-Aid? Because they said in the last 20 years, the average drive has gone up 1 yard per year. So if you think in 5 years, it'll be okay. Then we're back to that 5 yards.
Right.
So yeah.
So I think
go ahead. But I was gonna say, Randy said, I think for the tour, they should, instead of setting it, they should set the courses up to the USGA standards versus changing the equipment, which again, that's a very slippery slope to go down. Is okay, then the clubs are too good, the ball is too good, then stop working out, Bodine, you're getting too strong and fast.
I think they set the ball to say, if you swing 130 miles an hour, it can only have this much spring effect. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then the guy that's worked his ass off, or girl, to swing 130 miles an hour is, if that's the only person that it's affecting, well, then you're being punished for being the best at something, like being able to swing it the fastest. That's going to impede you because you have this advantage over everybody else. Isn't that the point of getting better? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
That's what JT's perspective was like, all athletes are getting bigger, faster, and stronger. So you're going to tell that guy that's, can swing a club faster, the ball can only go this far. He's like, it's interesting.
Yeah. Like you would think it should be a blanket rollback that 5% should affect everybody. It shouldn't just affect the top tier. That definitely doesn't make sense to me.
No, none of it does. It's like baseball. You'd have to keep moving the wall back.
Yeah. Or here, oh wait, you guys run you run the 100 at 4.2. Anybody that runs 100 in less than, or what is it, 40, whatever. You run it super fast. You're in the top 1%. You have to wear heavier shoes. Like, okay.
It's the world in which we live.
Well,
equity. It's all about equity.
Yeah. Go ahead, Randy. Sorry, man.
Well, and the reason why I said to set it up for the USGA standards, if everybody hit the ball the same distance, then that probably the ball might be the answer, but they don't. And if you look at the scores that come in from the US Open, they're usually much higher than the tour.
Yeah.
So the way they set up the narrower fairways and whatnot may be the way to kind of control some of this. But again, I don't know, because Jack Nicklaus has been talking about the ball forever.
Yeah, I'd like to see a debate between two people that have, insights into both sides and really understand what the details are, what are the benefits, what are the pros, what are the cons, and see them talk that out. That'd be interesting.
All right, let's get two people who know on
Get
this,
them on the show.
on the show.
Let's figure out who that is.
I just think it's gonna, say you get an amateur that qualifies for the U.S. Open, then he's gonna be like, ah, crap, I need a different golf ball, right?
Yeah.
Or you're never gonna have an amateur qualify anymore for the U.S. Open because, like, what is he gonna do? Practice and play with the pros ball, even though he's an AM?
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that just doesn't make sense.
Again, it doesn't affect that many people though. So it's for the greater good. I see where they're coming from.
Well, speaking of qualifiers, we're having one today for the Valero Open here in San Antonio, and then
Oh
there's,
yeah.
8, and then there's players in Austin and Houston, and then they come to our home course on Monday for the Monday qualifier.
Oh, so you have the pre-qualifier,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
Monday is the Monday
Monday.
qualifier, right?
For the Valero Open, yeah.
Oh, cool.
So there'll be 24 players on Monday.
What a crazy
top.
process that is.
Yeah, they said the top 8 today will be given a slot on Monday, and then the top 2 or top 5, I think, get into the Valero Open.
Wow. Yeah, I would imagine it's probably only like two or three,
Yeah,
and then they'll have a couple alternates, and they probably have to shoot a 63 or something like that, to even sniff the opportunity.
yeah. I told him I was still recovering, so I had to bypass my invitation.
Sponsors exemption.
Yeah, I'm slowly getting stronger and faster.
And he'll never be able to vacuum again, but he's
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
getting
That's
stronger.
right.
That's good. It's that motion of the vacuum
That's it.
that sets your body off.
That's right.
Well, speaking of you qualifying for the tour, let's kind of branch into a little bit of what we were talking about for the topic today. In the email, we mentioned the full swing and how, we all got a glimpse of what goes on behind the scenes with the tour. And, so we've seen in every episode that they're in the gym, they're showing them in the trailers, they're showing them in the different workout facilities. And I just thought it was interesting. And even I pulled up our Instagram because if you guys haven't been on our Instagram lately, what we've really been doing is highlighting some of the great golf fitness pros that are around, that are working with some of the tour players, just some of people that we know that, and, quality stuff that we trust, exercise that we think are good. So at least it's a bit of a resource where you can go and know that you're not going to find some goofy, silly exercises. But I was thinking, like, we can really utilize, because I would say that most of us, the way that we warm up as recreational or, some competitive golfers, does not look like what the pro golfers are doing. And obviously we're at different levels, right? And we have different time constraints, but there's something that we can really take away from just watching what they do. If we go out to a local golf course, country club, muni course, whatever, you're not seeing a whole lot of any kind of warm up first and foremost. But when you see the way that these tour players approach their preparation for their round, it's pretty impressive, the amount of work that they put in, the amount of effort that they're exerting. And I think a lot of people would look at it and be like, whoa, that, like, they're doing a lot. I wouldn't do anything near that before a round of golf. But what they're doing is they're really getting their bodies prepped and primed and ready to go. And that's kind of the intent of today's call, is just kind of pointing out the fact that the traditional, swinging 2 clubs, standing around, doing a couple stretches, some air swings, and then hitting balls is, that's kind of old school. And so I just want to pull up, let me share my screen here. I'll show you guys a couple of these things, and we can kind of talk about just, what's going on or what your thoughts are when you watch these. And every golfer is different, right? Like, every individual is different. Brooks Koepka is famous for, doing heavy workouts on the days that he plays.
Right.
But I think what you'll see with some of these that we've shared recently, me see if I can pull this up here. Can you guys all see that?
Yep, I got you.
All right, let me. All right.
It's kind of cut off at the top. Like, there you go.
Yeah, I'll scroll around. So this is here. This is our Instagram, but I'm gonna scroll down here. So like this is, I think this is Dylan Wu. So, you know, a lot of it is going to be, you're going to see these guys, you can even see he's dressed and ready to go, but doing a lot of like kind of quick band work,
Right.
some rotational things where they're getting their bodies in different positions. They're getting them moving, basically they activating, you know, getting their bodies ready to perform. So you're not going to see a whole lot, typically not going to see a whole lot of heavy lifting. They probably don't have a whole lot of heavy weights in these trailers even, but you're going to see them kind of working on some balance, working on some rotation, some activation kind of things where like, you know, like this, where it's a little bit more speed oriented, kind of waking things up. You're not going to see these guys doing any like slow kind of stretches. Here's JT, you know, kind of a similar, you see that might even be Adam Scott in the background doing some med ball slams. And I'm not sure. I think, let's see. I don't know if this was, I believe it was maybe the day before. So this, he might have done something a little bit more intense than he would on the day of. Let's see, where do we have Scotty Scheffler? I know that this might have been Saturday before his round on Saturday. So again, a lot of movement kind of stuff. Here's some core stuff, you know, where there's a lot of stabilization, a lot of rotation, but not a ton of heavy lifting, but also not any slow moving parts here, right? So if you guys aren't on Instagram, we've really been making an effort to highlight some of these things. So you know that you can go here and find some good quality stuff. You know, sometimes we get in our rut of doing the same things, especially if you are, you know, doing your own workouts and putting your own programs together. I get in the same rut myself where it's really easy to do the same thing over and over. Let me see if I can find like right here. This is one Tyson Alexander. He I believe plays he works with Alex Bennett, who is down at TPC Sawgrass. But this is the kind of stuff that you're going to see before a round of golf. So even, you know, having a rubber band that you can have in your bag, having some ideas of just some movement prep type stuff. This might be Dylan again.
I see a lot of guys doing rows, like the one arm row.
Yeah, so that's a very
one.
It's kind of like that explosive kind of squatting and rowing kind of a move, you know, where you're using a little bit of that vertical force, you know, getting your legs to be able to move and pop and move quickly, but with a little bit of that row, that little rotation kind of a move. That's definitely one that you'll see quite a bit. Let me see.
So how long do you think like a pre-round session for these guys would typically last?
I'm gonna guess maybe like 30 minutes or so. Something
That seems pretty intense there. What Spieth was doing.
Yeah, so all of this, I know that we posted this one. This was from Damon Goddard. So again, Zalatoris and those guys. I mean, but they're just strapped up to a band. That's not crazy stuff. But this was a couple days before the competition.
Zalatoris looks like Megan Rapinoe with his hat off. Doesn't he?
He does. Yes, he does.
Good Lord.
And here, this was Kitayama.
So what's that one called?
No idea. Lateral lunge with the ball raise. Who knows? Lateral hops.
Call it the Jeff Pelzero then. Nobody's claimed it yet.
Yeah,
oh, he's got
I'm
the
not
Urban Golf shirt on. I see that.
Yeah, he's an Urban Golf guy. Yeah, don't get caught up in what they're called. Here you go. Here's some live golf for you, Brandon. Cameron Tringale.
For the
Now this-
listeners, Bodine, we're trying to keep them interested.
What's that?
Trying to say what we're watching for all the people watching the recording. I guess if you're watching the
They,
recording, you're not
they
just
should be able to
listening.
see this too,
All right.
right? So this is Cameron. So Mitch Sadowski works with Cameron, and this is definitely not on tournament week. So you notice he's a little heavier, doing some movements with the landmine here, and then some heavy deadlifts. So obviously working on some real strength there. And then this was one of my favorite posts recently with Scott Stallings with Ben Bruno is a great follow. He's the trainer Scott was working with here with the pizza plates on the landmine,
I like that.
little rotational stuff. So again, this is not, this
He's
is not
getting
on game
after it.
day. Yeah,
Yeah,
Scott,
he's definitely getting after it.
he's notorious for, working very hard. I think he did a lot of CrossFit kind of stuff. So Scott goes after it a little harder than most, I'd say. You'll see him lifting some heavy weights. He did a lot of work with our buddy Andrew Hannon down in Scottsdale. But anyway, so just a couple glimpses at, what some of the tour players are doing. Now, obviously in our programs, we don't have a lot of that stuff programmed in there, right? And primarily because it's hard to know what equipment anybody has. So we have to keep it fairly basic, rubber bands and such. But, if you think about what are you doing before your round of golf now, and what are those guys doing? And, just trying to bring a little bit more intensity, a little bit more intention, maybe is even a better word,
Right.
to getting the body moving a little bit more. Now, I know that, can't do a lot of that stuff out on the driving range. So some of the stuff you can do a little bit at your house. Now, depending on how far away your house is from your golf course, that, there may not be a ton of carryover there, but even to throw a rubber band in your bag, you could hook it up to the cart, you could hook it up to the clock tower at the driving range, whatever, and do, just even do some resisted rows, some punches, a couple little lateral moves, some rotations, some of the stuff that we put into our warm-up program, those priming drills. And that's why they're there, because by having some resistance, having a little bit of speed to your movement, you're teaching your body, hey, it's almost go time. I need to be ready to move fast. I need to be able to be balanced. I need my muscles to be in sync with what I want them to do as I get to the first tee box, as opposed to just going out, hearing the creaks and the cracks and swinging two clubs around and, just kind of being okay with the fact that it takes you a couple holes to warm up, or, that you're just going to be a little bit sore, or you're not going to move quite as fast. Like, no, let's show up with some intention. And, I'm preaching all of us here, because I know that Ryan and I have played many rounds of golf together where we basically just roll up, pull the bag out, take a couple swings and go, just because 6:30 a.m. in the morning or whatever it is. Right. But, it's good to see and take a little bit from what the best in the world do. And this is stuff that we could all implement ourselves. Right. So like do the things that you have control of. They're going to have better hands than us. They're going to swing faster than us. They're going to do so many things that are better than us, but we could take some of this piece and we could implement that into our game. And as we've said many, many times, it's probably going to even help and benefit us more so than it does those guys, because they're so dialed in. There's so little improvement that they can make. If you haven't been doing any kind of a real warm up, you're going to notice a big difference if you go out and have a little bit of a warm up before you go out and play the next couple of times.
Right. Yeah, that's as the longer we've been doing this 18 strong, the more and more people I see on the range, like warming up with bands and warming up for real. Like 10 years ago, we looked like crazy people out there. And now it's kind of just become the standard that, everybody says it. If you don't warm up, it's like, God, I played terrible until I get to the 5th or 6th hole. And it's always like the 4th, 5th, or 6th hole. So that's what we did before. So then I also in that show, I saw people doing stuff, the pros doing, a lot of workouts afterwards. So why are they doing that?
Well, because when you're playing golf all day, right, you're kind of doing the same thing the entire day. You're basically rotating the same way for 4 hours, 5 hours. You're walking. So the post workout it's not going to be nearly as intense most of the time. It's going to be a little bit more of like a cool down kind of a thing, but you'll still see a lot of movement. You'll still see a lot of mobility. That's when you'll see a little bit more of the static stretching, or those guys will even have like some soft tissue work, some work from their chiros where they are doing like some stretching, some soft tissue massage, just to basically recover and make sure that everything's moving well, kind of get things back in place after they've been moving all in one direction all day long. And just to make sure that now their body is in a good spot. So tomorrow, when they have to compete again, they can come in, they're going to feel good. They're going to be ready to go.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Brandon says, post workout, do you want to get into stability, or I'm sorry, post golf? So I guess post your round, do you want to get into stability work, i.e. lefty swings, or I guess opposite way swings?
Yeah. I mean,
for example,
like I said, everybody's going to be a little different with what they want to tolerate. I know some of the guys will want to go in and actually get a workout in too. Like Tiger Woods would have, if he's playing in the morning, he very well may go and do a weights workout in the afternoon. And some of those guys won't use the fitness trailer. They might go find a local gym where they have some more equipment. They have, other stuff that they can do. I would say that the majority of them are probably doing a little bit of, I doubt that many are going into like lefty swings and, taking the balancing out that far. I think they'll probably do a little bit more like bilateral, unilateral rotation kind of stuff, some similar stuff to what we saw, but maybe not with the speed, the intensity, the resistance that we saw in some of those videos. But yeah, working on some balance, working on some stability work, working on some mobility work, just again, making sure that the body's feeling good. If they felt that anything was tight that day, probably going to do a little bit of stretching and some drills to work on that, some postural exercises. Golf is tough on so many things, the back, the upper back, the legs, just making sure that everything's going to feel good and fresh for the next day.
Plus there's like the season is so long and they play golf so often, you really kind of have to work it into your normal, what is their normal schedule, right? Where it's, okay, on the days that I play in the morning, I can work out in the afternoon. The days I'm playing in the afternoon, I have to work out in the morning. Otherwise, it's like these, like hockey players and baseball players who are playing so much, they lose so much of what they built just during the season because they can't legitimately work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that most of them are pretty structured. Every one of them is different, and talking to some of the different pros, and even the fitness pros will say, yeah, I've got 4 guys, but they've all got different schedules, right? So, just like we would, let's say we're doing the Golf Body Blueprint, we have a 5-day schedule. We've got 3 strength days and then 2 mobility days. We would figure out, okay, with your work schedule, kind of when you're going to do that, right? Like, okay, Monday, I've got clients, I've got a big hole in my schedule in the middle of the day. Tuesdays, that's going to be an afternoon one because I'm busy with clients all morning. So I kind of have in my head or even on my calendar, like when I get those in. These guys, same thing. They know like, all right, I typically get in on a Monday morning or a Sunday night. So I like to go and practice in the morning and work out in the afternoon or vice versa. So I would say, they kind of have that dialed in. So like Zalatoris probably knows Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, roughly, they all have different obligations with sponsors and things like that too. So this might change, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe, afternoon workouts are when I can get my workouts in, and maybe I'll do a little bit more strength-based stuff Monday, Tuesday. So I'm not, super fatigued by Thursday. Wednesday might be a little bit more of a movement prep kind of a day, getting activated. Wednesday morning, I'm teeing off early. So it's going to be a little lighter warm up in the morning. And then maybe I'll actually get a bit of a real workout in the, so like those guys kind of have that dialed in, and that's what their trainers are there to help them figure out. And a lot of the trainers, they don't stay there the whole weekend either. So like they'll help them
Right.
out the first couple of days, maybe get in some real workouts and then say, all right, you know, Thursday, Friday, here's what you're doing. You know, you got the morning tea time today, that day, and the afternoon the next day. Here's what I want you to do on those days. And, you know, and then some of them have their chiros or PTs there that are there the whole time because they're going to do some soft tissue work afterwards.
Yeah, you know, it's very like everything you just said. It's not lost on me how like disciplined these guys are because they don't have really a real routine. Like us, we come to the same house every day. We go work out at the same gym every day. Like these guys, it's like every tournament's just a little bit different. So having the discipline to go and the organization, okay, we need to go find the gym, or we need to go to the trailer. And this time, like to be so flexible and still maintain that quote unquote routine is pretty freaking impressive.
Well,
It's like the opposite of what you would say to build a habit, you know, because you're doing so many different things to get to the same place.
yeah, and that's why I think you find that, you know, some of the guys at the highest level, they are really good with that, right? Like I know, like Buckley he's a very regimented dude, right? So
Right.
he has his routines down, but at the same time, you know, like I think many times people would think like, man, the last thing I want to do after a round of golf is go work out, you know, but I also think like it's all about the expectations we have, you know, so like, and I'll put it into like just family perspective. Like most of us have kids or have had younger kids at one time where they're involved in sports and stuff like that. And like, there'll be times when I'm texting with you and you're like, oh, I got to go to soccer practice. And it's like 7:30 at night or something like that. And I'm like, God, that's the last thing I'd want to do right now.
Right.
But you already had that on your schedule. So like mentally you were already prepared for it. So it's like not a big deal to you. And then like, I might tell you something about like, I got to go do this and it's super early in the morning, like me getting here at 7 a.m. So I got to be up at 4:30 in the morning. And, you know, you might be like, oh my God, that's freaking miserable.
And
But
I
then-
am. That is miserable.
But then to me, it's like, well, but that's just kind of, I'm mentally prepared for that already. And that's kind of the routine. And so, you know, you start to find those things that get in the routine, but that's why it's so important to have that routine, to have those things on your calendar and have your schedule and know how many workouts you need to do and know what you're doing that day. Because otherwise then you do get in a situation where after a round of golf, you know, you're like, yeah, that's the last, I'm just going to go have a couple cocktails, just forget the workout. And I think I think we've seen that over the years, several golfers fall into that trap and they don't have that routine and that doesn't serve them so well.
No, it does not. But yeah, it's very, very impressive how disciplined these guys can stay.
Yeah.
I mean, good God, all the trappings a young man could ever ask for are right there.
Yep. Yeah, like Brandon said, you know, it's a lonely sport and there's so much work to put in. So yeah, the disciplined guys are the guys that really rise. Obviously the talent level has to be there too, but you know, then the guys that are disciplined and are workhorses, that's one way that the guys that don't have quite as much talent can kind of level the playing field a little bit. And that goes for any sport, right? That goes for any endeavor, really.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have demonstrated that with the show and what you're doing up there. So keep it up.
Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Nice.
All right, guys. I know we're a couple minutes over, so we'll close it out right here. Any last words of wisdom for anybody? Hi, Joni. We see you again in your sunshiny
So
weather
sunny.
by the pool. Yeah.
Safe
right,
from all
guys.
the mosquitoes
Yep.
under that canopy.
All right,
Yeah,
everybody.
man.
Well, let's look forward to some good golf coming up these next couple of weeks. We got the match play going on right now, which is exciting, but definitely looking forward to that Masters in a couple of weeks.
Yep. All right. We'll catch you guys next week.
All right, folks. See ya.
Adios.